Hey, Keith Myers here again. I just wanted to touch on just some ideas of limb destructions from an infighting perspective. Unfortunately, Bob doesn't have any limbs, and I don't have any training partners with me right now, so bear with me, but I think you kind of get the idea. I already talked about one limb destruction that I like. Let's say I'm in the outfighting range, I'm back here, and the guy is throwing a kind of a lazy jab or kind of a cross, and he's not very fast, and I'm doing a snap back or a fade away. I like to snap back, boom, with a hook, right? Boom. It's going to impact that punch coming at me about right there, right? Pow. So if we can be moving around, yeah, I see that, I have time, I see that punch coming, I step, I do my fade away, boom, and then I'm right back in again, okay? I think that's a good, valid limb destruction. Closest weapon, nearest target. Because I did a snap back and fade away, his head is no longer the nearest target, his arm coming at me is. Okay? This is different than if he was throwing that wide loopy punch and I was on the inside and I would get this. Because now, closest, nearest weapon, the closest target, his arm is no longer the closest target, his face is. So it doesn't make sense to hit his arm when I can hit his face. Okay? Now, if I'm in my infighter's crouch and I'm in this range, I have opportunities to do things where if I'm here and he's doing this long hook, just sweeping down at me, right? I have the opportunity to go under, but I also have the opportunity to just stop it. In which case, I put my arm up and his swinging punch is going to run into my elbow, either here or here. So that's a limb destruction. But notice while I'm doing it, I'm also going to the head. It's not that I'm attacking his arm. I'm letting his arm run into me as I'm stopping it this way. Set up the next thing, right? This kind of thing. A loopy punch is coming. Maybe I'm already out here. Loopy punch is coming, so I step in and I catch it. At the same time, doing this to the face, right? Boom. I think that's a valid limb destruction. You sometimes see guys standing here, they block, they do the elbow pick, they turn, they do another elbow pick. That's kind of chasing the arm. That's not, why would I have done that when I could be hitting you? Well, from an infighting perspective, if I'm already in this close, his arm is here, I could tie his arm up like a boxer would do on the inside, or I could do something that's illegal in boxing. If I'm already turned this way, his arm is coming down, boom! Boom! There's my limb destruction. It's not that I waited for it and I cut this big motion. I'm already here, I'm already on this side. I tie up his arm. Boom! There's my limb destruction. Right into my punch, right? I'm already here, my elbow's already here. Closest weapon, nearest target. Closest weapon, nearest target. Because my arm was already there. Because I'm covering. I'm moving around. Here, he punches me, I catch it. Boom! Pop! My elbow's already there. Boom! Moving around. Boom! Right? So I was already in place. So all I had to do was sandwich that bicep right here. Because my arm is already here. Pow! Boom! That's a valid limb destruction from an infighter's perspective. Another one. Let's say I want to do my body shot, my shovel hook. This guy puts his arm down and covers. Right? Now some guys, like George Foreman did this in the ring, because George Foreman could hit hard. A guy would just cover up. George Foreman didn't care. He'd just pound away at the guy's arms anyway. And then after a while, the guy's arms were getting tired. Well, you don't have that luxury in the street to hit the guy over and over and over until his arm gets tired. But also in the street, you're not going to be wearing gloves. You're going to be bare knuckle. So if this guy, Bob, drops his arm down like this to cover, all I have to do is now I turn, I angle my punch a little differently. So instead of thinking of landing more or less flat, I'm going to curve it, boom, and purposely dig the ridge of my knuckles into his triceps, okay? So he drops to cover, that's all right. It's part of my combination. I still execute my combination, and now I'm trying to, boom, slam the back of his biceps as hard as I can. Pow! Then I come around. So that's a limb destruction. He put his arm down there in the way, so I hit it instead of his ribs. And that way, if I can hit that biceps and his arm is kind of, then I've slowed him down a lot, all right? So that counts as a limb destruction. Just slam the bicep or the triceps. That's gonna hurt when you're bare knuckle, right? And I'm not hitting the edge of the bone. I'm hitting back here into the muscle. Pow! So it's harder, it's easier on my fist, right? Hard ridge of knuckle against soft tricep. That's the idea. Whack! And then I come across with something else, okay? So these kind of opportunities will come up where he's throwing, and this whole idea of a boxer's tie-up. I wish I had somebody here with arms, because at a certain point you have to work from clinch too, right? And so what if a limb destruction from the clinch was I tie the guy up, and then rather than just stay here, I do this hard pivot that way with the idea of wrenching his shoulder, right? Tied him up, what wrestlers call a whizzer, right? And the idea to wrench his shoulder. That's a limb destruction too, right? And it was efficient because I found myself in this position, so I'm going to use it. Boom! Right? So there's things like that we can think of from an infighter's perspective and an infighting range. We're still trying to be as direct as possible and not chasing his arms around. That qualifies limb destructions that would be illegal in boxing, but they're going to work well from a self-defense perspective. And if you think about it and play with it, I bet you'll come up with a bunch more on your own.